Okay, today we're going to take some time to talk about negative and affirmative words in Spanish. They can be a little tricky at first, but with practice they get a little bit better. Now, affirmative just means positive, negative, easy peasy there. So, yo no hago mi tarea. It's negative because it's no before the verb. And yo hago mi tarea, I do my homework. That's an affirmative or positive statement. Now, in English, we tend to mix positive and negative words all the time. It's normal for us. But in Spanish, you need to be consistent. So if something's negative, no tengo, everything else is usually negative afterwards. Or if it's positive, everything following will be positive as well. So it's much more likely to have double, triple negatives in Spanish. So I don't got no homework never sounds really weird in English, but it could totally work in Spanish. So there's much more consistency there. So let's take a look at some of these words. So because when we speak in Spanish, affirmatives tend to stay affirmative, negatives stay negative, they have opposites. So we have a list of vocab here. Now for alguien, someone, the opposite would be nadie, nobody. Algo, something, nada, nothing. Algún or alguno or algunos, some or any. Opposite being ningún or ninguno or ninguna. No, none, not any. Siempre meaning always. Nunca meaning never. También, also or too, the opposite being tampoco, neither. O meaning or ni meaning nor. Now if you think about the context we use these in, it makes it easy to remember what to use. So for alguien and nadie, we use people. Algo, nada, nouns. Ningún, ninguno, adjectives. Algunas variations are also adjectives. Then if you're dealing with instances of time, you've got siempre and nunca. Then for agreement, you've got tampoco, también. Or to give options, o ni. Now, alguno and ninguno tend to be the trickiest ones. Again, they act like adjectives. We know that adjectives in Spanish have agreement rules, so they have to agree with the noun they're describing in gender and quantity. So these ones will go before the noun they describe, or they can be by themselves. So for example, I could say, sí, yo tengo algunos libros, or if someone asks me, ¿tienes algunos libros? I can simply reply, sí, tengo algunos. It's still algunos because I'm describing libros even though it stands independently from the noun. So with these specifically, whatever noun you are describing, the endings are going to reflect that when you choose alguno or ninguno. But there are some special rules that we have to keep in mind with these two that can be a little bit tricky. So alguno and ninguno become algún and ningún before masculine and singular nouns. So they drop their O's and gain an accent mark over the U. Kind of like bueno and malo do before masculine and singular nouns, as well as primero and tercero. So if I want to say, yes, I have some book, yo tengo algún libro, or no tengo ningún libro, I don't have any book. So because libro is masculine and singular, I have to use ningún or algún in these cases. Now, can you have plural of none? No, that would be weird. So when you use ninguno, it's almost always ninguno or ninguna. There's not really many examples of it being plural. So you'd say something like, no tengo ningún libro. But some nouns in Spanish, just like in English, are typically plural, like tijeras, scissors, for example. So in that case, you could say, no tengo ningunas tijeras. But it is less common to hear the plural forms of ninguno, because how can you have plural of nothing? Look at some practice sentences with affirmative and negative words. So if we start with these sentences here on the left, we can see the affirmative words outlined. Someone, something, some, always, to, and or. Now all of these are going to need affirmative words. There's no negative terms in front of the verbs. So when we make them affirmative, we just need to use those vocab terms from the earlier slides. So someone answers the question, alguien contesta la pregunta. Alguien underlined being the affirmative term. There's something at the table. Hay algo en la mesa. I have some sheets of paper here. Yo tengo algunas hojas de papel. Algunas because it's hojas. I always turn in my homework. Yo siempre entrego mi tarea. I run a lot too. Yo corro mucho también. Do you have a pen or a pencil? ¿Tienes un bolígrafo o un lápiz? Now we're going to make similar sentences that are negative versions of the ones we did before. So take a look at the negative renditions. So we've got nadie contesta la pregunta. Nobody answers the question. Negative because nadie is before the verb. No hay nada en la mesa. There isn't anything on the table. There's nothing on the table. No tengo ninguna hoja de papel. I don't have any sheets of paper here. Nunca entrego mi tarea. I never turn in my homework. No corro mucho tampoco. No tengo un bolígrafo ni un lápiz. Now these are the negative versions. So these negatives before the verbs, that's what makes these sentences actually negative versus affirmative. Now, of course, you could have no before the verb and more negative words afterwards, like no corro mucho tampoco. And that's negative and affirmative words. Buena suerte!